Hello and welcome to Historia Romana. Episode 0. Introduction. Hello, I'm Marcus Silvers and welcome to my historical podcast, Historia Romana, or the Roman History. In this series, we will dive into a linear narrative of the history of the world's most fascinating and influential civilization, from its humble origins as a city-state in Italy to master of the Mediterranean, to its slow and painful decline and everything in between. This episode will give you a little bit of background on myself and the series. I first got into history about a decade ago when I had to binge crash course world history for a test I hadn't studied for. I had been an avid reader of children's fiction when I was younger and had always had a fascination with stories. Now, in the field of history, I found entertaining stories which were not only real, but potentially had important impacts on our way of life. Like many others, I first became enamored with ancient Rome thanks to the excellent podcast by Mike Duncan, simply called The History of Rome, which ran from 2007 to 2012. I've re-listened to the entire series many times, and I'm certain that Duncan's dry humor has gradually rubbed off on me. While I am certainly glad that the podcast exists, in recent years I couldn't help but notice several of its flaws. Beyond some basic factual errors and poor sound quality in his early episodes, my biggest issue is that he quickly skips through early Roman history in a handful of episodes in order to get to the Punic Wars and the fall of the Republic, which he later admitted were the topics he actually wanted to discuss. I don't want to blame Duncan too badly. He was, after all, learning how to run a history podcast on the fly in an era before podcasts became commonplace. But it has since inspired me to look deeper into Roman history myself, both through the ancient literary sources and modern scholarship. While I find both valuable for information, I became especially interested in the older sources, who generally attempted to frame their works as a narrative, while newer sources tend to ramble on about esoteric academic debates, which, to put it bluntly, really ruined the vibe of the experience. With all this knowledge at my fingertips, I decided to try my hand at podcasting myself, to bring this great story to a new generation. I have no idea how long this series will be, other than that it will likely be many years if I see it through to the end. I only hope that you will join me on this voyage through the annals of history, through the eyes of the empire that has captivated me ever since I first learned of it. First, let's briefly address the elephant in the room. I've unfortunately never been a good speaker, nor do I feel entirely comfortable sharing my voice online these days, and so I feel the use of AI voicing is justified. Also, this series is primarily an audio podcast, and so there won't be any fancy editing besides basic visuals and maps to give readers an idea of what is being discussed. I consider myself a storyteller, not a designer. Next, this podcast will be a narrative history above all else, primarily relying on the ancient sources from Rome itself. This is not an academic project by any stretch of the imagination, even if I do often rely on existing scholarly work to fill in the blanks of the ancient sources. I chose to tell history this way for two reasons. Firstly, I like my history to focus on specific people and events, because those are much easier to connect to and understand. Obviously, history can be much more complicated if you factor in things like gradual social processes and critical literary analysis. But for the average listener, these things only make it harder to comprehend the story, not less. Thus, I'll be leaving out any lengthy discussions of modern scholarly debate, unless I feel it is critical to answer a blind spot in the historical sources. Secondly, I think there is value in understanding history the way that the Romans would have understood it, and so focusing too much on the modern stuff can really ruin the fun. This is something I plan to discuss more another time, however. Finally, while I have certainly read many sources in preparation for this series, I am by no means above criticism. If I say something unfactual or you need clarification, then by all means leave a comment for everyone to see, and I'll be more than happy to respond when able. I'm starting this channel brand new, and so it will be amazing to see the subscriber count grow as we continue on this journey together. With all that said, I recommend first listening to the general timeline appendix if you feel you need more of a context cushion before beginning our story. Otherwise, feel free to start with episode 1. Thank you for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe. Until next time.